With Dr. Kumaravadivelu, or Dr. Kumar. He's a plenary speaker for the 19th Annual KOTESOL International Conference, and he's here with me today. He's from San Jose State University, and his talk was on connecting global cultures and local identities in the English language classroom. So do you want to tell us a little bit about your presentation and the crux of the presentation?
Oh, definitely. First of all, I was quite excited because, as I said in my plenary, the conference theme is very relevant and timely, particularly because of the developing cultural globalization. And I have been feeling that for quite some time, and in fact, that was the focus of my previous book on cultural globalization and language teaching, that somehow English language teachers must be able to make use of all the information that's available about developing cultural globalization and try to make a connection between that and what they do in the English language classroom. And the English language, because it is global, and it offers a wonderful opportunity. It can be used as an instrument for creating this, what I have called a global cultural consciousness in our learners. So that is something that is quite exciting to me, and I hope that in the two presentations that I made today, I hope I have passed on a little bit of that excitement to some of these participants.
I definitely think your workshop was very interactive today. Let me ask you a dumb question. How?
There are no dumb questions.
No, just dumb people. No. Let's call it. It's an ignorant question, I guess. How important is globalization in the classroom? How important is that cultural context in the classroom? And I teach English. Shouldn't people be learning more about my culture? Why should I care about the target culture? Or the target culture is English, so shouldn't that be what I teach?
I think the idea that when you are teaching a second language or a foreign language, you must restrict your cultural references to the target language community and their cultural beliefs and practices is exactly an outdated paradigm. It is outdated primarily because of the developing cultural globalization. So in the last 15 20 years, the world has come together in incredible ways, and because of the internetization, people sitting in any country can easily know something about what other people do, what other countries do. So they will come to know the cultural beliefs and practices of other people. So I think it will be a complete, almost a criminal waste of resource by not using the English language to develop this cultural consciousness in our learners. Precisely because, as I said earlier, English being a global language, it is being used to effect cultural flows all the time, both in humanities and social sciences. So it makes, therefore, eminent sense to make use of the English language classroom and in order to develop this global cultural consciousness. Secondly, and more importantly, why do we have to bring in cultural globalization in our classroom? Because the contemporary life is such that you just cannot escape the impact of globalization, whether it is economic globalization or cultural globalization. So when I'm saying that we need to make the connection between English language teaching and globalization, cultural globalization, I'm talking about ways in which we can actually make English language teaching much more relevant to our students and their lives.
Globalization, cultural globalization. Let's just talk globalization in general. Is it a good thing or a bad thing?
Well, like in any human endeavor, there are good things and as well as bad things. Now, the good thing about cultural globalization, if you begin with the assumption that there is not one single culture in the world which embodies everything that is good, and if there is no one culture which embodies everything that is bad, if every culture has something good and something bad, it's only beneficial for our students to know something good about other cultures. And if they come to know something about bad, they know how to avoid those things. So both in good ways and in bad ways, an awareness of cultures about other countries can only benefit our students, particularly when they are living in this globalized world.
So do you think that eventually or soon English should or will become the world language? Is it important that we have one language that everyone can speak?
Well, that's kind of an ideal in a scenario. First of all, I'm not even sure that I want to live in a monolingual world. I think there is something to be said about the linguistic diversity that we see in the world. But it's also true that it's a good idea to have a language which people from different countries can use in order to communicate with each other. Historically, it so happened that that language currently is English. Okay, I think what we have to be very careful is what we need to understand is, so far we have considered English not only as a tool for communication, but also as a baggage that carries cultural import with it. Now, because of globalization, we need to separate the two. English used as a tool for communication, and English used for transmitting cultural beliefs and practices. So in which case, we cannot confine our references only to the culture of the target language community, but you can use the language as an instrument, as a vehicle to understand about a large number of cultural communities. So it depends on the way in which you are using this instrument. You can use it for good ways, like any other instrument, or you can use it for bad ways.
Do you think that instrument will change? Do you think that it's going to be English, or do you think another language might become the, lack of a better term, lingua franca?
Well, if you go back to the human history, think about Latin. Once upon a time, Latin was a global language. It's almost dead now. All right. So I don't think anybody can say that similar thing may not happen to any other language, including English. But if you look at the global scenario right now, you don't really see any other language which can, at present, compete, with the English language. So one might say that, potentially Mandarin may become a competitor in due course, in 25 years and 50 years, that's a possibility. But right now, I don't see any other language in the horizon to come up as a real competitor to English.
So just tie that end up.
Okay.
Why is it that English is becoming the global language? Why not Mandarin? Mandarin is spoken by more people in the world, but why is English considered the global language?
Well, the main difference is, yes, Mandarin is spoken by a large number of people, but nearly 95% of speakers of Mandarin, they are confined to one single country, China. So it cannot be considered a global language. Okay. Yes, it is a language spoken by more than a billion plus people. But for a language to be global, it has to be in use in as many countries in the world as possible. So right now, that's English. That's number one. Second, English became global not because there is inherently anything good about the language itself, not because of its linguistic properties. Well, as you very well know, English became global partly because of colonialism. It's a colonial history. Okay, so when you want to combine the role of English and the potential role of Mandarin, for instance, English made use of what's in political terms called hard power of the colonial forces. But Mandarin, China has to make use of soft power, not hard power. But can it be done? Yes, it will take a long time, but I think it's right now happening. In the United States, for instance, more and more parents are actually advising their children to learn Mandarin. So Mandarin is becoming very popular in the United States and in a number of other countries as well.
How about you? You live in San Jose. Is San Jose developing more of a Spanish flavor as it is in Southern California, or?
Well, because of historical reasons, Southern California and particularly in San Jose, look at the name San Jose is Spanish origin. That's because of the historical reasons, because we are very close to Mexico, etc. Okay, so yes, there are a lot of people in California who speak Spanish. Okay, that's partly because it is their mother tongue, right? But Mandarin is spreading in the school system. Okay, in a much more formal way, in an institutionalized way, Mandarin is getting popular, more and more, year by year. Okay, so that doesn't mean that the importance of Spanish will go down. No, I think I don't really see these two competing with each other, because these two languages have different roles to play at least in California.
Okay, I want to thank you for your time and certainly for accepting our offer to come to the conference. It's been great having you here. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you very much. I really enjoyed, and thanks for inviting me.
Appreciate it.
Bye.